Hi, I'm Jamie Bonk, and this is No Tuition. It's hard to pigeonhole an artist like Ron Scott. He sings, plays numerous instruments including guitar, piano, and percussion, and writes songs. He's done music for TV, working on shows such as Corner Gas and Antique Roadshow, as well as movies and commercials. On top of all that, he's a prolific painter. We had a great conversation talking about his music, his painting, and his relatively recent exploration of looping. So, in addition to being a musician, you're a painter. Do the two pursuits affect one another? Do you see any kind of crossover between the two pursuits?
That's an interesting, always the universal question with all the painters and musicians. So many of them. The more you look, the more you find how many musicians are also painters, and probably vice versa, I guess. Anyway, you know what it is? It's I can't help but think of Miles Davis, and he said, in music, he said, I know when to stop, but when I'm painting, sometimes. So I think it's always a study of clarity and relaxation, and that's when you make your best movements, whether they're musical movements or artistic, drawing kind of movements. Remember, the page is blank when you start, so you have to have a sort of a holy, leap of faith to say, I can create something here that's going to be worthwhile. So the two are identical, really. I suppose but the one thing about music is it moves forward in time. This is like a still frame that you paint is a freeze frame. So there's always that, but you still have to develop all the elements within the freeze frame that you do in music. It's interesting. I guess all the art forms probably are just.
Do you see if there's any kind of overlap in the creative process? Like how you would go about, say, writing a song.
Yeah.
Do you see any kind of overlap that to say making a painting or a video or?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. In a way, I think that if you start out with some kind of a bedrock, whether that's a rhythm section or a chord, a chord structure, or it's just the beginning of the palette that you're going to use, and things unfold really quickly, and that's why you have to be relaxed and going forward, because as soon as you put one bit of something on the page or one strum, one style, suggestion of style, you're there, and the song should just unfold almost like those people say. The song wrote itself, So it sort of does if it's right. It should just sort of fall out, I guess. But I guess you get a bedrock, you get the hook in your color palette, and you get a principal character, maybe which is your, a focal point, maybe which is your chorus. They're all kind of comparables in some ways,
Do you see is there more or less improv, say, in painting versus music?
It's how you do it. I pursued it in a variety of ways, both music and art. Like at some points I've gotten into where, the old, the guy, the famous American who just poured his paint on and stuff. And I've done that kind of stuff where I'm just almost throwing paint.
Like a Jackson Pollock kind of thing?
Like Jackson Pollock kind of a suggestion. Yeah. Well, this thing here is kind of, in a way, it's kind of Jackson Pollock-y. You can't see half of it, so the composition is lost. But really,
and that's one of yours?
Yes, yeah. And it's just a sort of a mustard-colored thing with red and blue and black, and there's kind of a suggestion of something there, some ribs and stuff. It's interesting. Like, at the center of art creation is trying to find something that's either pleasing or maybe attractive or whatever it is, but something that's pleasing, something that is engaged, and that's the skill. And it doesn't always have to be, of course, technically difficult. And that's why you get these hit songs from back in the day when they started to find out they could make a lot of money on a hit. And they just present sort of a sketch, but it was there, the suggestion was there.
Like when you say pleasing, are you thinking about pleasing the viewer or the listener? Or are you thinking about pleasing yourself, like in terms of your own, you dig that?
The listener, I mean, for yourself, but I think that the key is what makes a chorus good, like what's a great chorus? I was thinking, heartbeat, it's a love beat from today. And when we meet, those are all musical ideas, and maybe they're attractive or maybe they're not. And that's the skill, is to utter something that is attractive, that works, that's real. And it's not necessarily easy to do, but a lot of us have the gift, to do it for sure. But it's something that's attractive. You look at a Picasso, you look what is it? You look at a picture that you like as opposed to one you don't. You know,
Hmm.
can you make something appealing? That's the question. You know, some of the paintings that I've got here, well,
Well, you know
I
what,
got
man? I'll if you'll let me, I'll go to your site. I know you've got a bunch of
yeah, some to look at here.
JPEGs there. I'll try and put some of them in the video so people can get a
Yeah,
sort of a feel for your work.
that's great. Thank you.
So awesome. So okay, so live performance has been a cornerstone of your career. You played
Hmm.
everything from solo acoustic gigs to
Hmm.
full band shows and
Yeah,
played
yeah,
just about every type of venue.
yeah,
Besides the obvious of having adoring fans cheering at the top of
yeah,
their
yeah.
lungs,
Right.
what do you feel are the elements that make for a successful show?
Oh boy. Well, I think that the earlier you face that, the better, because that's one thing I think that musicians forget about, in a sense, is you have to have a rapport. If you're going to have a real success, you need a great rapport with the audience somehow, whether that's through dialogue or through smiles or through jokes or through dancing or through whatever. But you need to connect with the people, in a kind of just a sheerly entertainment value way. Like that's why you would see someone like Miles Davis, dress up so, and make himself look like that because he was showing, off for his fans so they could see him look cool and what
Mhm.
have you. And you do have to do it. And I never did it. I have an interesting story around it because I was always a humorous person, still am and stuff, an entertaining, funny guy. But with my music on stage, I was often very, just very, I guess, serious or something. I didn't joke around with an audience. I barely spoke to audiences. I got used to playing to very small audiences.
Mhm.
This is a long trail of shows, but you know, uh, putting a show together is for me very difficult because I have been free to play for the last 10 years, almost just like I have a partner playing percussion and I'm using loopers. So it's really all about my improvisation as opposed to being able to say, okay, what's the first thing I do? What's the second thing I do? What's the third thing? I want to know what to do in the moment and do it right then.
Mhm.
Uh, so planning a show is difficult, and I think in a way, you finally mature when you can plan a show. And I'm not sure if I'm there yet because it makes the quality of the flow of the experience a lot better, and I think it's pretty important. So
Now,
you know,
when you say you connecting with the audience,
yeah,
how do you feel that how do you know that you've connected with an audience? What are the sort of
yeah. Well,
the
people, you know what?
signs?
People respond. You see them talking. You can hear people often too. Like even in bigger places, sometimes people you overhear people talking about the band or whatever, or just on stage. People that are noticing you, they're into it, right?
Hmm.
Can't take their eyes off. My friend said, a laugh is an interesting thing. It's a compulsion. Like someone who may not even like you or like you as a person or your kind of person, you might be able to make them laugh because people can't stop a laugh. It's a
Hmm.
compulsion. So I'm not even sure what I was talking about there, but something that's likable. I remember I made a painting that was a nude, and and all it is just two curves representing the breasts and then a belly button and then a triangle and a smile, just a simple like a happy face smile, and it
Hmm.
suggests the whole body. And it's so simple. And there were some painters that did that. And now you get into throwing paint in such abstract configurations. So I don't know. How do you make people like it? How do you do it? How do you know they're looking at you and they're enjoying it? There's a vibe you can't beat. I've got another gig coming up in the same place that I had a great night a little while ago. Just one of those great nights where, back in the days when the men would come and gather around behind the band near
Hmm.
the end, sort of hang out with their beer there and stuff. Well, that's what these guys were doing. It was a fun night. And doing it alone with a looper and a bunch of electronic stuff was pretty fun. Anyway, that's a
So,
long
so
answer.
does the technical aspect of the performance affect whether you feel it was a good show or not, or is that
Mm,
sort of secondary to the whole
You know
you've
what? It's so
connected with the audience thing?
mm-hmm. I think it's very integral. You have to the technical side has to work. I guess everything has to work flawlessly for the real connection. But anyway, I think it's emotional too. Like I find that I go into a show now, and if I'm in a really calm, confident state of mind, really relaxed, and I just chat naturally, it's so easy to get a real nice show out of that. And if
Hmm.
you go in kind of nervous, a little withheld and stuff, you set yourself up for for problems and
Yeah,
stuff.
true.
Things will hit you the wrong way and make you emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of really being really open, so that you can come to the show relaxed. Because so many times we used to play and we'd work so hard getting set up, and stuff, and after a full day of whatever, and then you'd have to get to the point where you're ready to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your arms are tired. You're tired. You're not there yet. So that's the challenge, boy.
Yeah. Totally.
But it's always right there for you. You just have to sort of accept that way to it, and say, hey, well, I'm here, and people will buy into any kind of sincerity in some ways too.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. You're exactly right. So you play both guitar and piano. Do you find the music you write on the guitar differs from music composed on the piano?
Yeah, it does, and it's interesting the reasons why. Well, for one thing, I don't have chops in terms of rhythm on the piano. So I play like this. Let me just. You're not getting that, are you? Let's see where. Oh, why aren't you getting that, Fran? That's funny. I didn't check that out. I thought I did play that earlier. Anyway, so I don't have rhythm. I tend to. Oh, I don't have the keyboard turned on.
The power thing.
Yeah, just the big one. I can only play ballads. I had an amazing thing happen to me. I'll get back to you the difference.
I think Lionel Richie was saying something about that. Like, if you see him when he's basically plays, ballads or something.
Yeah. I came to Regina, and I had never played a piano at a gig ever. And I was about 44 when I came to Regina, back home.
Yeah.
You could say. And all of a sudden, I got these gigs where I would play. Get the piano. I had a piano bar. Like, I played for a year every Saturday at a piano bar. And it happened twice. I did 2-year-long gigs weekly. And so I had to devise a way to keep a crowd feeling good no matter what they do, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got your feelings in your heart won't get away.
So you're saying you taught yourself piano just when you came to Regina? You hadn't played piano?
I had played my whole life, but I had never gigged, and I had no real repertoire and not a variety of skills, whereas on the guitar, then, you can play with rhythm. Here, I'm going to just turn this down here. So that's based around the rhythm. And I haven't got real piano chops, so my piano stuff is always more, I don't know. Sometimes I think that I sing better after all these years. It's more of a riff when I write rhythmically, because I always write rhythmically, not all the time, but most of it's some kind of a rhythmic thing on the guitar. And on the piano, maybe it's a little more vocal and melodically, a little more melodic, like, say, what's that song we did? And there's a silver lining for me somewhere. A simple melody that makes you cry or smile.
So on the piano, you're playing more around with time, and the guitar is more of a groove, a percussive instrument.
I kind of do both with the guitar, but I sometimes when I'm not relaxed, I tend to groove too much and forget to play more in the floaty side, because I find it works for me vocally too. Like, I just roots rock reggae, play some reggae music.
Oh, you can sing over anything, dude. I
can sing over it. So everybody knows. What's your next thought?
Okay, well, you know what? And that actually leads nicely into the next question here. Does the instrument you write on change your vocal melodies?
Well, I think it does in a way. I mean, you have your style, but it calls you in a certain direction for sure. And you know what? Even when you write with a synthesizer, so you're in essence playing some kind of airy sound or some kind of a electronic percussion or whatever. You write songs like, here's another thing here. Well, you can also, one thing I've been doing is, because I've gotten into the drums, like I finally bought a djembe, So now you can loop that too, And so that's a real blast. Here's an example of that. Let's see what I'm not even sure if it's. I'm not even sure. Sorry, let me just see what turns out to be here.
Lordy, 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 lordy.
Maybe not.
Lordy, 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 lordy.
No, that's not what I was thinking. Anyway, so you get into creating with drums. So then once again you're singing, and you can use melody like, okay, look me over, I'm your man. I'll do everything I can. Look me over. I'm the kind of guy. So that's melodic, but it doesn't have to. You could be like, say, oh, you love me, baby, baby. Oh, you love me, baby. Oh, you. So, yeah, the instrument.
And that would be different if you were played on with a guitar backing.
Because the guitar would be like whatever. It wouldn't be as visceral. It'd be like, oh, you love me, Lord and Lord. Oh, you love me. Yeah. Instead of, whatever.
Yep.
More or less interesting, but.
Okay, so let's say you started a song on the guitar or the piano or on the djembe, so you have a rough sketch. How soon are you going to move to the recording process and start making some kind of an arrangement of that?
Well, nowadays, what's interesting? It's an interesting question because everything's changed. Because what I do is I work with the looper really to create the music that I'm going to play. Because that is what I'm playing when I'm playing live. So,
and that's mainly what you do now. Is like you work with a looper.
Sometimes I do full nights without it, but not very often. Yeah, there's some like outside. I haven't had a big enough PA for it to work the way I like it sound wise. But inside, it's fine. It's interesting. There's some aspects about looping. It's kind of inside the. You got to know whether you're in the loop mode or something. And you have to sort of get away from it sometimes too. You have to step back.
So what drew you to looping? What was the impetus to sort of get into that?
I mean, I got into it, of course, as soon as we started doing digital audio, you could realize the potential sort of for a loop, repeating a pattern. But I don't know. I think I saw that fellow Beardy Man actually. You know what? I had a sort of a smattering of interest and awareness, and I actually rented a looper one time, and I didn't even touch it. I couldn't wrap my head around it at that time. But when I got it under my belt here, and I've been about 3 years ago now, I think maybe more. I don't know. Anyway, I just took to it right away. So you're writing right there, and you're going to perform that very music. So the impetus is, I forget the question, but it was interesting because it sort of springs from the looper now. Because I can go, for example, and say, okay, here's another song I'm going to base around this. Whatever, keep on going down. And my thing there is to automatically make your melody hide the fact that it's constantly descending. So it's like people love me, people are together for so long they are went down. I can't do it. But my first thought was to say, okay. So when I compose, I think, okay, the chords are doing this. Should the vocal maybe do? What you do loop live, you find the sweet spot. You told me about that once. You said, Ron, singing is like finding the sweet spot, yeah, because you can sing something so real.
Yep.
These sweet spot places, So when you're looping, you have to find the sweet spot, whatever it is that will fit into this growing loop.
Is there a particular looper that you're using now that you really like, or is it?
I only know the one, but it's laid out pretty well. Well, I have two. I have a large one here. Are we on this camera? Yeah, we are. Yeah. So then there we can see. I think you can probably see it there.
Is that a Roland one or?
It's a Boss, I should say. RC 300.
Yep.
And then there are two smaller ones that are just vocal performers, and they also have a simple loop thing.
And are you using those like in conjunction with one another?
I'm using those in conjunction with the big one. So I have the guitar going through one of the loopers, and this looper here, it doesn't. Once you stop it, it's gone. So you can start immediately. So it's a quick fix looper, right? It's like gone. But with the multi-track one, you can evolve. You could evolve it live if you want to, but there's a lot of room for backing tracks and work like that. So
are you loading in backing tracks before, say, a gig with those?
No, I'm just doing. I'll do a song like this. There's my start. So I might let that play. I might play a guitar solo, and I might talk a little bit. I might sing, and I might stretch this out into about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I might go to Sorry.
And then would you move like to say the djembe or to the keyboard and add on to that, or would it just be like
Yeah.
a guitar track
That's
or
the
something?
sweet spot part you're talking about right there. As you move from instrument to instrument, that's what you have to find. Is okay. If I'm going to switch over to the djembe, I better hit the sweet spot so that they go, yeah, I can buy that. That's the djembe part in there, you know. So you go from palette to palette. It's kind of neat. And that was the section there. Is the other one. So I've got voices there, right?
So are these set pieces you're doing each night, or are you improvising like brand new looper pieces each night?
I mix and match, and that's the beauty of it. You really have a wide palette. So I might start the night just by going something like, okay, so I've got the guitar in here, so.
Right.
And then,
Cool. Very cool.
you know, so I go back and forth. I try and just go wherever, and I might just do a vocal one, like so. It could be some hey, hey, what is it? I say hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, I had a little problem.
And are you using this
Sorry.
like solo, or are you doing this like with a band or a duo, trio, format?
Doing it with a percussionist for a long time, but it's kind of, you know what? It's an interesting story because he's not evolving with me through this transition into the loop so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that he doesn't enjoy playing with the looper as much because I think he feels part of his job is supposedly done,
Mm-hmm.
because there are drum parts being played and this and that. But I think it's a mistake, it's just a mistake that people make. Like, what would you do if you were playing with a 5-piece band? I mean, would you not play, Or can there be 2 percussionists in a band? Or what is the golden rule or whatever, So, and I find that I'm more free without him, actually, and I tend to have better shows the times that I've done it alone. So, I mean, I'm really free with it. And then one thing else I do, like, I can do something like this. This isn't even me playing in the back, but it's just this. It's like... She walked into the bathroom with a golden smile. It's just some jazz loop that I won't talk to you about for a little while. So, and then the other day I actually turned on that hit, I Feel It Coming. I just turned it on and sang along with it. And it was great,
It sounds like it's opened up a huge new world for you, the looper.
It has, in a way, like I would really, really love to get some bigger shows because I've done a few bigger PAs and it's something I'd like to get really accustomed to doing because it's got a lot of potential. It really does. And, you can do anything with it. You could put on some serious drum beats on there from like any software you like. And you know what I mean? You can really, and you can carry a real show with it too. The one thing the looper has done for me, surprisingly, is it's given me structure. So if I'm saying, what is this? Is this right? That's that one. So structure. What's it given me? Structure. It's like where's a good song for that? All right. So I have like 70 loops, right? It's just wow. So there's one coming there. So this song is the exact same every time, right? And I could play with it if I wanted to.
And then you're adding on top of it.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I might play the drum, I might sing, I might rap, I might play the piano. I haven't actually taken the keyboard to a gig yet. Isn't that something? So I might.
It sounds like it keeps it also very fresh for you each night. Yeah. The tune is evolving, the piece is evolving, so it keeps your interest level up as well.
Yeah. And you can take it apart too. Like you got 3 tracks with this looper, right? So you can erase one too. Maybe one part starts, you realize it wasn't recorded well, so you take it out and do it over. And it changes the song, of course, a little bit, and it's just really cool. It's very refreshing. But it gave me structure because I have 3 sections, and they sound exactly the same, right? Every time you hit it. So some of these are 2 years old, some of these loops, and they don't change, man. Here's one.
Let's go back to Africa. Let's go back, you wait and see.
So I sang, oh, let's go back, let's go back, let's go back, let's go back to Africa. I listen to the drum all night. And then, what I do too is I also, at the end of some of the larger songs, like say I did that song, at the end of it, I might do a like, and then I might fade out the song and fade in the next one, keeping something like, then bang, I might hit it or whatever I want.
And then into the next tune.
Yeah, coordinate the whole transition, whether it's a blend, a fade, or an abrupt turnaround, like a DJ almost.
Oh man, I got to get a looper. I think
you're
making me want to get a looper.
Well, you have to get a looper, like even just a one-off, like the simple one that I got. Like just get a pedal and then realize the potential. And it doesn't take much more than that. In some ways, I always find myself cycling through everything. I cycle through composition styles, and in art, I cycle through one or two sparkles or dark or whatever. It's always a cycle. And sometimes I want to come back to just playing with the, alone, and then you want to play, okay, just one looper. And then but you go in a cycle, and but a looper is incredible because it frees you to just improvise, like all of a sudden, and you get a skill too. Like I never played leads really, and I still don't, but I do more and more because I use it. I play along.
Gives you that freedom. You got the rhythm guitar or whatever there, to play on top.
On my stuff, I know what I'm. So So I pick simple things and try and make them, clean.
I think a looper's next on my gear list.
Yeah, you should get a loop. Just like I said, try with the pedal.
Yeah.
And you could take a look at this one too and just see online what it does. Basically, it's a multi-track, 3 channels.
Yeah.
Up like crazy,
Cool.
Your 12 takes playing along with you, It's true. It's something else.
Okay, so let's moving on here. So you spent some time writing music for TV. TV and film certainly make certain demands on music. Writing good underscore requires a somewhat different skill set than writing songs. It's a different world. What did you find was the biggest challenge in writing music for TV or for underscore in general? Or even songs that would go into TV shows?
It depends on what happened here. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I see. 1 second here. It's it's interesting. If someone likes the song. See, when I first started, I actually was writing for a movie. I wrote for some kind of it was some stupid thing about stalking or something, right? This guy's a stalker, some silly, and I without seeing any picture at all, they asked me to write 2 kind of suspicious type songs like that about a stalker actually, and I did write one that actually they took right away and loved it, and so that's that was a very stylized synthetic kind of a thing. It was pretty cool. I wish I could play it right now, but anyway. But then there was another project that that the guy didn't like anything we were doing, and it got so insane that you didn't know what to do. So I guess it's whether they like you or not that really matters. But the difference is, it really is. It's all about pace. It's actually, here's how you do it. So when you're writing for a song, you're not concerned with anything else. So you just focus on that. But when you do this for picture, of course, you have to watch the picture. Min, hey. My dog is just she's so sad because I'm not talking to her. Go away. Go sit down. Sorry, buddy. Go sit. I got 2 dogs. Anyway, so you watch it, and maybe you're going to play piano. And it's you should watch, turn it down, one time, and just play piano with the scene. Anything goes, right? And then you can even so you can sit way out. I mean, less is more. It's hard to say. You can't stay. It's a very interesting thing because people listen to the music in the mix, and then they also listen to it as it stands alone, and they just tell you what they like and don't like, and you just shape it for what they want. It really is that. Finding, once again...
Do you find that there are more constraints writing for picture than there are for a song?
That's the thing. They need to like it just like anything. You know what I mean? Like... No one's going to buy your song, then they don't like it too much. And, when you pitch this song and the whole flavor that you've chosen for a TV show or a movie, they've got to go for it. And if not, then it's done. So it's really commercial. I guess
Yeah.
that's the simplest thing. You've got to write something that this guy named Butt, what's his name from the comedian who head up the show Corner Gas? Bill, what's his name?
Oh, I can't
Anyway.
remember right now.
Star of Corner Gas.
Mhm.
They needed a song for one of the episodes where the one woman who's quite frenetic, the older woman in the characters, the mother of him. Anyway, she goes catatonic and she's depressed, and they want a song that's upbeat and they want it to sound like Katrina and the Waves.
Mhm.
Asked me to make it something, and I used one of mine, and I hit a grand slam that day. It was like I used "Save Me from the Man." Bang, bang, bang,
Oh,
bang,
cool.
bang,
Yeah.
bang, bang. And it was just there were just like 20 voices on it, percussion. It was crazy. And it worked. And the guy came in and listened to the first 10 seconds and said, "That's fine. That's great." So it
Cool.
was good. But the picture is beautiful. I would say anybody who has ever played an instrument, sufficiently should try and play behind picture, because it's a way cool thing to do.
Do you dig it? Is that something you'd want to get sort of
Oh,
do
I'd love
more of, or is that
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I really, I haven't got myself positioned to do it commercially, but I do have experience and a lot of, I think I could bring a lot to any, I did one thing actually. If you want to do it, it's called Stone Hall Castle.
Mhm.
Find it on Facebook in Regina. That's and I did
I saw it on your website.
yeah, that's right. So that was kind of cool because it got me a chance to use a little sort of orchestral thing, and write a narration and perform a narration, and it's about a 2-minute piece that's kind of orchestral,
Mhm.
and I love that stuff. I could write like that forever if I, it's wonderful.
Cool.
All of us, you've got so much you can't lose. The oboe plays one note over there, and then the harp plays one thing there. It's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Uh-huh.
All right, time for guitar talk.
Ooh. Nice.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
I believe you've been primarily an acoustic player throughout your career, although electric's played a role too. I know you play electric.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you playing now? What guitars are you playing now? I know you played a Godin in the past. You're playing
For years, yeah. Now this is a Larrivee. It's like a $1,600 model, basically. And I never have gotten a nylon string, and I always envy the guys that do, because it's so easy. But you know what? I started playing acoustic guitar, when I was about 8, and I'm 54 now. So it's been a long time. So it's basically part of my, my whole hand life. It's everything. So I don't think I'll ever leave it.
And so when you're playing live, are you miking it using a pickup, using an amp, going straight to the board?
I just play smallish. Like I'm always using my own gear.
Yeah.
If I play the gig, then I just DI it, and then
Yeah.
come to the monitors, and that's all there is to that. But just with my own stuff, it's amazing. I just plug it in, bang, bang, bang. And we've always talked about, you and I, like using the, miking it to get that air in your recording, and to get that sound of the room, and to get that acoustic sound, And I have done it a few times with great success. I really think it worked, but I've never been able to, because I'm about sort of I'm a spontaneous, like the plug the guitar in and go is really where I'm at,
Yeah.
Like I started playing, when I was, gigging at 12 years old. And so it's, once again, that's just how it is,
Yeah. And so, like I can see you're playing fingerstyle right now. And so I know years ago, I think you dropped the pick, or you stopped playing with the pick. What do you feel that, playing fingerstyle gives you versus playing with a pick?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? The pick is more like that kind of, kind of playing. And that, that stuff has its place. It actually can really sound good in stereo on recordings and stuff like that. That kind of strumming. But the breathing of this, and then the marriage of you get it all. You get it just a wider. It's just a wider palette, a bigger vocabulary that. Well, you think about it, it's 5 picks or something like that, maybe.
And
6.
the percussive techniques, are you using like hitting the guitar type stuff, or is that?
I played a lot of solo gigs when I was quite in my early my teens and my 20s and stuff, and then sort of trios for the next 20 years or whatever, this and that. But I've always did play alone, it's all about using the guitar as a bass drum and a snare drum.
Hmm.
That's what you're actually trying to get. Because when you're playing for 100 drunk people in a pub in East Vancouver, they're not listening to much, but you need to have a style that works when people are loud.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's what the looper's great for too, because
Hmm.
modern music, modern PAs, like forget about it.
Yeah.
You come in large as you can. If you've got the charisma to carry it, then you go right ahead. And when you get into Loopville and you're in your, for me, I just started. It's almost like it's just so it's. I'll do these long shows. I'll play 5 hours and really take like a 15-minute break. I'll play 4 hours. And I've sort of gotten past that. But for the first year or so with the looper, I'd get a gig and just go play there for as many hours as just so I could do it. But at the time, I was finding myself able to loop,
Well,
voices.
you've also got the voice to handle a 5 hour gig. Your singing has always seemed to be completely dialed in. So how did you develop that kind of like endurance, that voice to handle
Well,
those
working alone,
5 hour gigs?
alone in bars, you have to be able to, stay. You're alone, and whether it's working or not well is one thing. But if you're going to get,
But was that vocal training? Did you take lessons?
I didn't. I always sang from when I was a little boy. You can videos, and I always sang songs, and sang with the stereo and all that. And then when I got a guitar, I started to sing even more. So I always sang, but I did take lessons, and they did help me actually a great deal. In Toronto, about the time I met you, or a little after,
Hmm.
yeah, a little after, we had already been our first group. And then I was with Rob Nussbaumer for quite a long time. And at that time, I took about 6 months or 3 months worth of lessons
Hmm.
from the guy at the conservatory in
Hmm.
Toronto. He taught me a lot about breathing and shaping notes and stuff. But the rest of it is just endless hours of singing.
Are you still doing like breathing exercises, scales, arpeggios, all that kind of technical stuff?
I'm aware that I need to warm up, because what I found all of a sudden, in right along about half an hour, 45 minutes into it. I mean, it's fine up until then, but all of a sudden you start to realize, oh, your voice is actually it's warm,
Hmm.
and you have a lot more ability than you do when you started.
Yeah.
Whether that's high or low or rich or long, or you're in control, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
voice has become modulated and you are now singing.
Mhm.
And when I arrived there, I just love it, because it reminds me of when I was young, when I sang more like that. Now I play an easier hand. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
play the big notes hand.
So, okay, so many times musicians have to perform at venues that have less than stellar gear.
Yeah.
Any tips for singers singing in substandard conditions? I know you've played in a whole bunch
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
less than
I would say most
fantastic
of it,
venues.
but people can hear you enough, probably, no matter what. Like if you're in a low situation where the sound gear is no good, and it maybe isn't going to be that important a gig overall, you just want it to go as well as you can.
Mhm.
Then don't worry about it, and just realize that people are hearing you well enough, more than likely. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, we get so caught up on sound, and nowadays it's not such a big. I don't know. I just find it very easy to set up the gear and to start playing. Although you do need to have your ears tuned.
Yeah.
You can shoot yourself in the foot, and that's
Well, the
you know
gear is better now, I think, overall, and it's
yeah,
lighter. It's
lighter,
quicker
more
to
accurate.
set up, and
Yeah, yeah.
you
It's
know,
more refined. The sound, the signals that you get are more refined and
yeah.
more, clear. And so it's just great. And the PAs are easier to use. And it's just, I still have my PA from like 1992, man.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just too funny. It's so
Okay,
funny.
so what's up next for you, man? What are you working on? Gigs? What's coming up?
It's a good question, man. I kind of came to an interesting point in life, because I raised a family. So, and now the youngest son is off at sort of a boarding school here in his grade 12 year, but he may, be going somewhere to school next year. So we've kind of come to the point where they call it empty nesters. So
Hmm.
the thing that you had sort of in your mind before it started, what a 24-year experiment, and now it's changed over now to no kids at home.
Hmm.
So playing music is definitely something that I want to do, and paint. We've been trying to market some of my paintings and stuff, and we're just getting started. I don't know if it's going to work, but I've sold a few here and there, and it might be cool. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I'm more interested in trying to find a way to polish an act, to try and offer it to someone who can get me work,
Hmm.
and somewhere, not Regina, but anywhere. That's really my dream, is to find a way to get maybe some festivals or something if I could just pull it off. But I always do a lot of creative stuff and not a lot of administrative, so it's hard to say.
Well, the bit I find that the same thing. The business ends up sort of sucking the life force from you at times,
Yeah.
but it's just
You
sort
have
of the
to-
reality of being an indie, I guess, is you got to do that stuff if you want to get the music out there.
think of anybody to do it. I've kind of been spoiled, probably just, and also just ambitionless or something, because I just have, I've enjoyed playing where I have. The point now, I'd like to see it come to something different, but my habits don't really. So we'll see what I can do. I have a new level of an act now, though, than I've ever had. So I do believe maybe, there's a chance I could do something with it. So I'd like to travel and play a little bit, here and there every few months or something. I like to play live,
Well, man, I'd sure like to see you out there. It's
Well, I think I can, if I can really, I don't think it's, I don't have a huge income with my, with my profession. So it's not like it would be impossible to maybe make enough money. I don't believe, but it's always a musician's conundrum. We'll see how.
You can always make a tour out to the West Coast, out to Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to. I played there, in Vancouver in the very.
You lived here, didn't you? Like it was years ago.
I played in Kitsilano, 1981, 82, 83, 84. Yeah, it was great. It was
Awesome.
beautiful. Yeah.
Well,
beautiful.
thank you very much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it, and it took up a whole bunch of your time here, but this has been awesome. I can see you got your little buddies there.
Yeah, they're getting sad, guy. We gotta
they're demanding it.
yeah.
Anyways, thank you, and I'll talk to you. Probably in about 2 seconds after we stop the video. Ciao.